curves. This book would be incomplete were we to neglect or omit to answer certain very pregnant questions that must arise in the mind of the reader as he proceeds in its perusal. Accordingly, this section, a short one, shall be devoted to that end. As I rose in the air and passed over a sunny region which had not felt the effects of the terrific storm of thunder and rain, there came a feeling that there was a vast difference between my then present estate and which the ethereal journey from the city and east was accomplished. In both cases, the altitude reached was probably the same, or approximately so, but in the first flight I was not 1/50th part as conscious or awake as during the second. There was also a difference in the rapidity of motion. The individual calling himself Thotmore, and concerning whose reality I am perfectly convinced, now moved through the air but at a slight elevation above me, while formerly I had not seen him at all, previous to making his acquaintance near the house of the sleepy student. At one time, among my miseries, there possessed me a very uncomfortable apprehension, lest by some mishap guide should be unable to sustain me, and that I should fall. Now the reader will say, that was impossible, for the spirit being lighter than air must necessarily ascend. Another one will say, true, so it must, but being so very much lighter than air, what is to hinder it from going up with a rush? What prevents it from going up vertically with the speed of rifle ball, seeing that the pressure of the must force it upon the power and almost inconceivable? How is it that spirit gets to the earth at all, seeing that the light bodies cannot displace the heavy ones? And how could a spirit move off at an angle at all? These are a multitude of other questions were present in my mind, along with many novel suggestions provoked by the peculiar circumstances in which I was placed. Let us try to make a matter clear in stating that, first place, the prevailing sensation was such an experience by those who go up into the great deeps in balloons during their novitiate of the business of cloud climbing. Among other questions arose, and which I put to myself, were these: do I, as a spirit, for the time being, actually ascend? Am I really here on the breast of the earth's great cushion and atmosphere? Or all the experience of this soul an episode of dream life? Am I really here? Or is this so resembles me only an alter ego, a second self which results of the pushing forth of faculty? It is a mere phantom which my soul has shaped and sent forth and lodged its intelligence in, for a time, by way of experiment and freak? If so, how is it done? In either case, the question is a grave one. For it be not myself, here in the air, but only a soul-created phantasma. Of what sort of materials is the appearance made, and whence comes to the weird and mighty power that can tell these images into being, and endow them with a resemblance of reality? These and similar queries suggested to themselves to me, and while the last one is still fresh in my mind, I noticed that the earth beneath the smiling and glad freshness, for the storm had not passed over the part of the land, although even and there it was raining a soft, gentle, sweet, and sunshiny summer rain, such as happens when the devil whips his wife, I beg pardon used, to whip her for accordance of the modern philosophers of harmonial order, and deceased these many years, of course, cannot thus chastise her any more. However, it was raining, and here was an opportunity to solve a much mooted point, namely, do spiritual beings get wet in the rainstorm? Do rainstops and hailstones pass through them, or do they just bound off from a solid body? Most attentively did I make the closest observations in order to be able to solve this question. I decided that rain passed through us, yet touched us not at all, as apparently did the wind. Preferring to make every point as clear as possible, I shall attempt to illustrate this one, even at risk of a little prolixity and repetition. The subject is an interesting one, and demands it. Everybody knows that nothing less than dense than water, save air in violent motion, will turn aside or shed it, and which constitutes the spiritual body is, of course, infinitely finer and more subtle than even the rarest gas, much less thick and heavy atmosphere surrounding this and all other globes. This fact is being conceded. It follows to all such bodies be pervious, and that they are so and not so in the same time. Remember that spirit is not soul. Forget not the latter is the winged globe, of which I have spoken, and the former is the projection and the outcreation from it. This outprojection, or spirit, is, of course, perfectly atomless and unparticled. We gaze into a mirror and behold a semblance of ourselves. The same figure may be gazed in 100,000 eyes, and everybody will at once acknowledge that the likeness is perfect and real. Yet everyone knows that not a single atom of any sort of matter enters into its composition. It cannot be handled, but everybody can see it. Nor would a pistol ball shot through the head of that figure harm it in the least degree, because it is not substance, although it is substantial. It is not a shadow, for it is real, which latter fact is proved daily by those who first coax this image into a camera, and no sooner does it get fairly in the clever artist impales it against the tablet of glass or ivory, and lo! We carry this changed image home for everybody else to look at, who chooses so to do so. This is photography. Wind and rain, cold and heat, are as powerless and inefficient in act upon the spirit as upon the image of the camera or the mirror. In other words, the spiritual body is a projected image of the soul, a sort of objectified subjective state, a fixed idea, and outcreation. The image is made up of parts. It is a unit, a entity homogeneous. If so, how can it be scientifically true that the rain passes through it? If it does so pass, it must make holes through it, and if the holes are made through it, then its homogeneity is at the end forevermore. This is a fair, as it is certainly in strongest objection that can be urged against the position assumed. But the answer which forever sets at the rest is this: spirit is not matter. The subject may be further illustrated thus. Suppose a large sheet of flame ensuing, not from a jet, but from the edge of a hollow disk, and that the rush of gas is great enough to impel the sheet of flame 6 feet into the air. Now, try to wet this flame. It will take some time before you succeed in the enterprise. Take a watering pot and sprinkle it into your heart's content. But although the drops of water will reach the ground to the flame and displace portions thereof, for in the infinitesimal space and time, yet they will neither wet nor touch it.